Reaper's Goodbye by Kalechips. The night sky of the countryside is wide, empty, and often soundless. Crickets may sing, but their song gets lost in the open air, soaking into nothingness. There's no hustle and bustle of crowds. There are no blaring car horns, just the wind through the grass and the labors of your own breath as you tread the unpaved road. It is said in such a countryside, you may come across a man with a trail of cigarette smoke behind him. His shifty eyes dart across the scene, but pay him no mind. His goals lie elsewhere. A cursed individual can only take company with those of a similar fortune, you see. To exist between worlds means living tied to nothing. No home, no family, no sense of time. A man like that looks perfectly natural, wandering the emptiness of a soundless sky. If you come across such a man, pay him no mind. He will walk on, leaving only smoke behind. But if you meet such a man and his eyes fix upon you, well, what can you do? What can he do? That's just how the world works. A cursed individual can only take company with those of a similar fortune. It's just the wheels of fate turning. You too just got caught in the spokes. Reapers, goodbye. The town smells like roasting meat and alcohol. Standing there, enjoying it all, is an old acquaintance. Je n'en crois pas c'est you. What a surprise. To think the gods would lead us to this village just to meet again. The world works in mysterious ways, to say. Oh, mon ami, you could give me a more cheerful face. Go ahead, smile for me. You never change, do you? Such depressing company you can be. Perhaps your poor mother fed you nothing but bitters as a child. Oh, so depressing. So depressing. I must drink away my sadness. Que horror. The man turns around with dramatic flourish. He begins walking to the nearest stall. He's been like that for the longest time. The man leads the way, babbling the whole time. This and that. It's always pointless, but he's keen on talking. Finally, he shuts up at the humble food stall where a group of patrons tarry idly. There's a bespectacled professor-looking man, a mature woman minding her own business, a jovial old man with a well-made suit, and a nervous-looking little girl hiding behind her scarf. Here's the chap I was speaking of. We can get this night started now. Ah, mon ami, don't be so sour. These poor souls missed their last train. They must spend the night without entertainment. It won't do. Let us trade stories until fate calls upon us. I personally find this so immature. Don't be such a stick in the mud. I can think of a better way to spend the night. Well, I can think of one better way. Oh, I bet you can. See what magnifique company we have. And so, the wheels of fate were turning. Or rather, they had already reached their destination. This was more or less unknown to the 6 strangers at the stall, who awaited the train that would take them far, far away from here. The story of the lost souls and their startling tales begins now. A story from me. Ah, I thought you'd never ask, mon ami. The only thing I love more than hearing a story is telling one. Peter laughs and takes a long drag of a cigarette. Oh, what to do? Yes, this is it. Now lean a little closer. Guardian angel. Before I was well established in my profession, I was a pitifully penniless youth, traveling the country with little else than the clothes on my back. Not even proper threads, mind you, all shabby, out of season hand-me-downs. It depresses me to remember it. Quel horror. Anyhow, you can see how unfortunate I was at the time. There were nights where I would have no coin for shelter, and I'd lick potato starch just to quell my hunger. I did manage to scrounge up enough to move to the city in hopes that I could find more opportunities there. I rented a small apartment on the lower end. It was a cramped, dark space, hardly bigger than the closet with a single flickering bulb strung from the ceiling. My bed was a bare mattress, held up by a rickety iron frame. I tried not to make much movement, lest I be awoken by rusty creaking. Something peculiar happened the day I settled into my apartment. I was staring up at the ceiling, willing myself to slumber, when I felt something at the side of my face. It was like an intense heat. When humans are in such darkness, their senses heighten, so that even the slightest rise in temperature can be felt. So, in that darkness, I felt I was not alone. I shot upright and pulled the bulb switch. I'd nearly yanked it off completely in panic. I searched my cramped room but found nothing. Mold and mouse holes. How depressing. Of course, I could not possibly sleep after such a feeling. So I headed out of the accursed room for some fresh air. Oy, youngin', ye be lucky to meet me at a time like this. Sitting on the street was a bedraggled old beggar. Her face was shrouded by stained cloth and her fingers played across the empty air. Something you should know about my profession is that you meet and greet many kinds of people. Each person has their own unique path to take, and intersections like these are akin to miracles. You may walk through life lonely and singular, or you may have a once-in-a-lifetime experience. So, even in my amateur status, I understood this to be valuable. I wordlessly shuffled closer to the woman. Aye, you seem to be wise as well as lucky. Many a youngin' walk past and pay with their lives. Wise and lucky ought to stay alive. So I tell you this, buy this from me for a copper. Place it at your bedside, and sleep will come nice and easy. In her outstretched hand, she produced a small communion cracker. Believer I was in the secrets of the universe, but even I had to raise an eyebrow. Besides that, I had little money to spare. In order to make rent, I'd have to cut down to a single meal a day. Wise and lucky, but still doubtful. Buy this from me and you'll see in time. Everyone on this earth is blessed with the guardian angel. When you lay down to sleep tonight, see how the angel watches over us all. Was she insane or speaking the truth? Either way, she was looking out for my health. I threw her a coin and made my way up the steps. I placed the cracker on the thin strip of floor between the bed and door frame, lamenting my lightened pockets. What in the world? I learned to fall asleep and survive on little more than crumbs. The end of the week, the beggar woman would appear on the street corner to sell me another blessing. Parting with coin always hurt, but the pain was lessened as my luck began to fly. Somehow, my business was taking off. It seemed that the whims of the city and the wishes of my heart had finally aligned. Magnifique! But all was not so rosy during these blooming, youthful days. I must tell you of, in generous terms, an old friend who was a likewise young man with little to call his own. He too was in the profession and had much to say about it. So much to say that our entire walk home was consumed with his contemplation. The same evening, he told me of his new residence. The beggar lady came for our usual exchange. "You're living here?" "I sure am. I mean, where else could I go in this dump of a city? I found a room last week. Man, does it make me miss home." "Youngin, are you got off to bed? Buy this for me for a copper." "A copper? Miss, I'm not gonna buy that little thing from you when I can buy myself a tall drink." "Please, youngin, you'll regret it if you..." "Listen to this. She's completely off her rocker." That foolish friend of mine laughed loudly at the woman and spun on his heel. In his place, I exchanged the coin for the communion cracker, but her face looked like she was mourning. "It's not too late, Tessa." "God, you're too generous. You need to learn how to say no to street people. We're hardly getting by ourselves." She might have a point. Just consider it, please. Let's go to sleep already. And so, just as paths intersect, they part. That night, dear listeners, I heard something I can never forget. I was laying in my bed. Was that my angel staring back at me? The creak of the bed from somewhere in the complex. Shh. Hey, who the? What? What in the hell? Hey, hey, hey. The following day, I learned that my friend hadn't shown up for work or so much as sent word. Sometime later, I saw the landlord grumbling around the complex, banging on a certain door with no answer. He seemingly disappeared clean off the face of the earth. How peculiar. But my mind wandered from it as soon as I received a letter saying I'd be accepted to a higher position with much better accommodations. Plans were made, suitcases were packed, and Lord knows how I paid communion up until the very last day. So that's this gentleman's tale of how I lived in my early years. Insightful, Tessa. I wasn't always so refined. Ah, mon ami. I know how cruel I must sound, but with time, you begin to see into people's hearts. You begin to understand who will make it and who will depart. Such is the way of our chosen path. The old fool smiles gently at the memory. Although it gets lonely watching over everyone's path, doesn't it? Ah, c'est la vie. The other patrons looked unnerved by his tale. Oh, what am I doing telling you this? Your icy stare tells me all I need. You're just about frozen over. But to him, it's just a nostalgic conversation. So, you want a story from me, huh? Well, I got my fair share of stories, but scary ones aren't exactly my forte. Mostly, I just got tales of heartbreak. Well, maybe there's one. She takes a slow sip and sighs. How do you start these things? Whatever. It doesn't matter how I tell it. What's done is done, right? So it doesn't matter what I say. How was it? Beloved Jubal Spider. Once there was a woman and her daughter. They loved each other very much. The woman brushed her daughter's hair every night and sang gentle songs to calm her. The time they spent together was truly the most happy time they had in either of their lives. Do you love me? Of course, Mama. How much do you love me? More than anything. You're such a good girl. Mama will give you a present, see? The woman gave her daughter a strange little box. It was thick and heavy with a large clasp in the front. If you're ever in trouble, just open this box. Mama will come help you. But, Mama, I can just ask you if I'm in trouble. Of course, but one day, the woman continued to sing. Her gentle voice soothed the little girl so the yelling from the next room almost completely disappeared. When it was time to sleep, the girl snuggled close so that she could only smell her mother's sweet perfume instead of the stink of alcohol that permeated the air. She drifted off to sleep in her mother's arms, forgetting about the cramped room where they lived. La di da. It's raining. One day, the little girl came home from school. Mama, I'm home. Inside, she saw Papa? Papa? What did you. The time the woman and her daughter spent together was truly the happiest time in either of their short lives. With the box hugged to her chest, the girl knew those days of love were never coming back. Mama! The girl became a woman, and that woman became cold. She lived in an apartment where the scent of alcohol permeated the air with a man who wasn't her husband. They got along fine, unless they didn't. The man borrowed her money, and the woman borrowed his time. Hey, do you have a little extra cash? You could spot me. I gave you all I had last week. Useless. You can't even lend your man a little spending money. What kind of woman are you? Well, what kind of man are you? You can't even keep a job. Shut up! Useless. Why don't you go out and try working a little? Don't come back until you've got something to show for yourself. So, that was the exchange. And when returning to the cramped little hole, the woman could see that hideous man asleep with a glass tipped over next to him. When he awoke up, she knew he would be angry and that he would blame it on her, and she would be tossed into the night again. Drifting off to sleep, she couldn't help but mourn her mother. She was the only one who ever loved her, and she was the only one she could love. The rest of the world is just too dirty. The woman kept the box after all those years. She hadn't opened it yet. There was no point. But for some reason, there was a sound from the box. Something was alive in there. It was trying to get out. The woman turned over and tried to go back to sleep. There was a comfort there. The scratching was almost like a lullaby, and as her eyes closed, she could almost feel her mother's arms around her. Another day of dirtiness, another day of pounding rain. How irritating. The woman went home as usual. The man stunk more than ever and yelled as soon as she opened the door. Their breath. I hate it.
It's not enough. Aren't you trying? Useless. You're doing just to spite me, aren't you? What did I ever do to you?
It's not my fault you gamble everything. You spend it faster than I can make it.
You don't understand how hard it is for me. Can't a man try to relax every once in a while? The economy isn't so great, so don't expect me to treat you like a queen of Sheba. I'm asking you to help out. So, help out. Come on, answer me. What's so funny, huh? Is this funny to you?
Your breath.
Quit joking around.
The man froze. The box in the corner was shaking.
What's that? Hey, what the hell is that?
The box was shaking more and more. The man's grip tensed from nervousness. My mother is in that box.
Quit joking around.
My mother was killed by my father. Did you know that? She was killed by him, and now she's in that box. She's looking after me, even now.
You're lying.
She gave me that box before she died. She said if I was in trouble, I should open it. What's in it then? I told you already. His grip loosened slowly. The air from the room had been sucked out and replaced with only the sound of light scratching. The man and woman laid down and closed their eyes, but neither of them went to sleep that night. Once again, the woman was forced to go out and look for work. She brushed her hair and applied her makeup as the man smoked a cigarette. His eyes struck on the box.
You said when you're in trouble, you should open the box, right?
That's what my mother told me.
Well, we've been in some trouble with money, all right? Don't you touch that box. What did you just say to me? I'm just saying, we've been in some money trouble is all.
I've been managing just fine.
Maybe there's some kind of jewel in there. Something we can sell for good money.
I said, don't touch it.
Come on. Don't you want to see how much your mother's love is worth?
The woman left for work with a loud and bitter laugh. Another day of dirtiness. Another day of pounding rain. The streetlights flickered on, and the water droplets catching the light and blurring the buildings together. The woman trudged home after a long day of work. The scent of cigarettes, beer, and sweat soaked her through. She suddenly thought of her mother's perfume, and through the rain, she thought
she could hear a familiar tune. She ran as fast as her legs could take her. She scrambled up the stairs to her apartment and pressed her face against the door. The song could be heard inside. My little baby. Behind the door, which held so many stains and fights and bruises, was an ocean of happy memories. In a world so dirty and cruel, how could you bring back those days of love? My sweetest child. It's easy. You just have to open the box. My little baby. There it was. A spider that shone like jewels, dangling from the ceiling. A sweet scent hung in the air as a beautiful melody rang out. On the empty ground, the box lay open and empty. Please, please. My lovely little one. Such a miracle could only make her laugh. Oh, come on, baby. Now do you see how much a mother's love is worth? And there you have it. They lived happily ever after. That's how all good stories end, right? Oh, you look upset. Were you expecting something different? Or maybe the ending doesn't sound that happy to you? Huh. It doesn't matter anyway. The little girl in the story wasn't me, so don't go dreaming. Once again, she acts elusive. It's just a little tale I learned off the street. But perhaps that's just an unchangeable fact. You've got a good eye, kid. I've got plenty of old spooks left in me. The old man is more relaxed than anyone else here. Well, when you've lived a life like mine, you're gonna get a few spooks. Maybe all of this is a game to him too. Plenty of sour times and things you can talk about in front of children. But besides that, I do got a good story to tell. It was back in the day when I wasn't so damn wrinkled. The Sand Casket. It's not the kind of business you can talk about. Not then, or now. But it brought money and was considered real men's work. I had big dreams. The boss said I had promise. I was naive, but still rough around the edges. It was a different time, alright. You could say I was a garbage man. I took out the trash when everyone was asleep. Nice and easy. Down on the beach with the cliffside. It had a sight like you wouldn't believe. I'd finish the job and stare out into the sea, taking in the scents. Now that I think about it, it's damn crazy that I never got caught. You shouldn't hang around the places you do business. Alright, I was caught. But it wasn't in the ordinary way. Even in my golden years, I can't forget what I found in the sand. I'd finished my business, and I was taking in the moonshine. But I could have sworn there was a silhouette on the shore. Obviously, that's gonna set off some red alarms. This place was pretty out of the way, so I reached for the piece and dared to look closer. Chasing the waves was some little kid. Big droopy eyes and a carefree smile. What the hell was a kid doing all the way out here? Hey, you! Come over here. Like a good kid, he tottered over. You could tell he was raised well. Youngins with manners like that normally come from good families. Hiya, little guy. So, tell me, where's your mom? What? No response? You could tell by his threads that he wasn't hurting for money or anything. He looked way too young to be some troubled runaway. He was pretty content for a lost baby. I could send him off to the police, but for certain reasons, I just didn't feel like visiting those guys. You like candy, don't ya? Yeah, that's it. It was dangerous to have anybody running around during my job, but since it was just a little guy, I figured he would be any trouble. My older self would have never made such a stupid mistake. That's what the kind of thinking that gets you 6 feet under. It accidentally became a ritual of mine to finish up work, then sit and watch the ocean with a mystery child, sharing hard candies between us. What an odd pair we must have been. Rowdy, no good like me, with some upper class air, stuffing their faces with sweets. I decided not to think too hard about where he came from. I'd given up my own past long ago. One night, that hell of a night, what I don't understand why it caught me off guard, but the mystery kid had such a damn sad look on his face. All I could think of was driftwood floating out at sea, or a hurt little bird. I don't think I'd seen anything sadder in my life. Hey, little guy, you hungry? I got some extra sweets tonight. But the kid just kept staring out over the waves, sad as hell. Come on, tell me what's the matter with you. Do you miss your mom or something? Let me help you. What's that face for, huh? I let the kid lead me across the shore. Still had goods on me, for Christ's sakes. He ran with all the determination he could muster. We reached a far part of the beach, right under the cliffside. He stood and pointed at the ground, looking at me with those droopy eyes. All right. My first thought was, this kid lost his toy or something? He was playing at the beach and buried it and forgot about it all? I did it all the time myself as a kid, so naturally, I pulled out my shovel and got to digging. There's nothing here, I'm telling you. Same response. I began to wonder if this kid was playing tricks on me or what. But something grabbed onto my mind. I don't know how to explain it exactly, but sometimes in this line of business, you sense things a little better than most people. At this point, it's up to your own personal brains to go decide whether or not you keep going. I was young and very stupid. So you know how it went already. I shuffled more and more sand until it became dark and dense. All the while, the kid was looking at me with watery eyes. Damn it, it's gotta be. My shovel met something at last. In the dense earth, I spotted a little fleck of white. Deeper. I had to go deeper. Curled up like a cicada shell was a pair of skeletons. A large one with a torn dress and pearls, and a smaller one that... Thank you, mister. So that's about it. Instead of horror on his face. Times were very different back then. But times treated me well, for the most part. But you get a few odd things here and there. There was a look of warm nostalgia. Never did get to learn his name or how it happened. No use wondering now. No use wondering then. People disappear every day without a trace, but the world keeps turning. Frankly, I'm happy that I lived in a world where things kept turning. Ghost stories? Oh well, no, I haven't really. We don't get to talk about the occultish stuff in my line of work, since it's very scientific. I'm very factual, you see? But perhaps... The man nervously looks from side to side. Yes, well, just for tonight, since you insist. There was this one time back in my school days. Tunnel visions. It was in my college years when I found myself stuck in the rain between trains. I studied late and neglected to keep track of time. Indeed, the trains went on without me. I had ended up beneath a street lamp with my umbrella doing little for the intensity of the weather. Looking out, I could hardly see anything except for the shine of wet gravel in the fog. Oi, are you lost? A voice rang out into the night. I couldn't tell if they were beside me or not. They sounded like a man about my age. I still couldn't see them. follow the tracks if you go through the tunnel. You won't have to bother with the rain. But the train. These tracks have been abandoned for years. Come on, let's go. Indeed, there were tracks in front of me. I followed them and came to the mouth of a tunnel, where a figure stood. Strangely, I couldn't catch his face. The mix of fog and rain and darkness made it hard to see. I could tell he was too a student, and my nerves began to settle. I let down my umbrella and we entered the tunnel together. He began to ask questions about me. The tunnel was even darker than the outside, but thanks to our conversation, I felt completely at home. I explained the courses I was taking and the dorm I was at, the exams I was studying for, and my expectations for the future. I'm going to be a physician. You sound so sure of yourself, he said. It's only a matter of time. The courses aren't so difficult if you study them properly. Anyone who says otherwise is making excuses. Naturally, not everyone can make it. But that's just how it is. If everyone could achieve their dreams, the world might as well collapse. That's very much like you. I was confused by this statement, and my nerves were on end once again. Did I know this chap after all? I studied his face in vain. The darkness was too much. He was slightly taller than me. Maybe he was somebody I'd met on campus. I tried not to think of a way to catch his face. Say, do you have a light? It's a little... Of course. Give me a moment. He lit a match from his pocket. The bottom half of his face was illuminated, but I still couldn't think of anything. Despite being taller, he had an odd youth about him. How to say it? Well, normally at that age, a man begins to grow hair on their chin. Even when one shaves himself, there will still be little pocks where the hair will grow. No. For him, it was completely smooth. There was a roundness to his jaw that made me think of a prepubescent. I was thinking too much of it, so he caught me in the act. Something on my face? No, Quickly, I thought of something. I just don't recognize the uniform. So, I suppose we won't be seeing each other at school. No, I suppose not. In the distance, I heard the blaring of a train. These tracks aren't used anymore, remember? Of course. We would walk along them all the time back then. We did? Well, normally I was too scared to, but you would push me along. I'd push back and eventually we would end up walking the tracks. We'd walk to school like this all the time. Paolo? Yes, it was Paolo, a friend from years ago. We studied together and walked along the train tracks. Just as he said, I still couldn't see much of his face, but his voice still carried the same measured timbre as it did years ago. I was tempted to let out a laugh, but stopped before the empty tunnel would catch my voice. I suddenly became wary of the space around me as Paolo about patted my shoulder in a friendly manner. Took you long enough. I was beginning to think you'd forgotten all about me. Well, I've just been busy with school. My mind is a little tired. Of course, school. I see. What was that? We had studied together for some time with the goal of getting to the same university. The bar was extremely high, so we put our all into it. But Paolo just smiled at me. Of course, hard work is important, but there's a matter of natural ability. Some people are just built with better aptitude than others. It's by the grace of the gods these things come to be. Truly, it's out of our hands. Paolo, I heard a train. It must have been your imagination. How far is the exit? It was out of our power how we are born. So it was naturally out of my power when I was selected for our university. My friend was left to the wayside. He said he would just try again and be my underclassman, but probably a while. What, you don't trust an old buddy? Paolo tried again and again. He entered countless essays and repeated the tests over and over, but he somehow was unable to pass. By the grace of the god, he simply couldn't tell. By the grace of God, he simply couldn't. I fell out of contact because I was naturally became so busy. There. It's at the tunnel's mouth. It's gonna hit us. Please understand. I hardly had time to even eat. It was cutthroat. Our futures were going to be in different directions. I was in some to better places than others. You're worrying too hard. It's merely the pounding rain. No. Up there. A light. It's coming. I turned around in the other direction with a small hope I wouldn't be dashed to bits. But a hand clamped onto my shoulder so hard I nearly flung back. A hand so biting cold I could feel it through my coat and in my bones. Where are you going? Aren't we going to walk through this place? Together, as friends? I remembered this coldness. On the day, with biting rain, I heard the news. After failing the entrance exam once more, my old friend Paolo wandered up to a bridge far after midnight and flew over the railings just as the train passed. The rumbling was getting closer. The light was creating a burning halo around him. The sound was piercing me. The light was piercing me. The other end of the tunnel was just too far away. Was I going to die? At last, I could see his face, young and just as piercing as the light behind him. You were good at running ahead. The path always seemed to open just for you. Me, though, I could hardly get my foot in the door. Why? Why is it you? Why can you do it and I can't? Why is it you? The light was burning me. In that moment, I was sure I'd die. That everything I had worked for until now would be smashed to bits. But then, the match, which was burning down to his fingertips, split in two and vanished into darkness. Paolo and the train disappeared at once. I was left alone in the dark of the tunnel, with nothing but silence and vague glint of the train tracks, which had been abandoned long ago. And so, that's the end of the story. As I said before, I'm not into the occult. Surely there's a scientific explanation for it. Perhaps I came off a bit cruel in my retelling. I can understand how someone uneducated might see it as such. He gives a resolute huff. He's convinced himself of something. Academia is an extremely cutthroat business. If you're unable to keep up, then it's your own fault. Nobody argues with him. Back to drinking once again. The little girl, who up until now was staring at the ground, finally looks up with steadfast eyes. I have a story. She opens her mouth to speak. Her voice trembles slightly. Before I got here, before you all were here too. The tired eyes of the other patrons turn to her. Before I got on the train. Back at home. 5 passengers. What are you whining about? There were funny things in Mama's house. A kid was looking out from the closet and walls, but Mama never believed me. The other one played lots of jokes on Mama. Mama didn't like them. You nasty child. What? Do you hate me? What did I ever do to you? Disgusting. Get away from me. I asked the other one why they kept hurting Mama. All they would do was laugh at me. Their face got all upturny and they laughed and laughed and laughed. What are you doing? Are you trying to play tricks on me again? Why? Why couldn't I have been a normal child? Mama, I am a normal child. But there's a bad child here tricking you. Mama, please believe me. Somebody was playing at night. There was a big crack on the floor. No, 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 no. Mama's mirror was smashed on the ground. Why? Why are you always so mean to me? I hate you. I hate you. I hate you. I tried to put the mirror back together, but there were too many pieces. The other one laughed at me over and over. Everything was broken. No matter what I do, things break. I'm a normal child, so why was it here too? That night, I decided to run away. Everyone will be happy if I'm gone. Mama won't have to cry anymore. I ran to the stations where all the trains are. When no one was looking, I jumped on board and sat down. I wanted to go far, far away, to a place where no one would know me. The train was cold and loud. The lights flickered a lot. It was empty and lonely, except for 5 other passengers. On board there was a pretty lady looking sadly out the window, a man with little glasses grumbling a lot, a fancy man with a little mustache humming to himself, and a nice grandpa who gave me candy. Sweet! I wonder if my new home I can get candy like this too. Will I meet somebody as nice as that grandpa? That would be nice. Eating the candy, I counted the passengers in the car. 1, 2, 3, 4. What? I thought I saw 5 passengers. The 5th one was... No, not again. You can't be here. Get away right now. The train began to shake back and forth. Everyone started yelling. Everything began to rumble, and I fell off my seat. The world turned in circles over and over and over. I was trying to be a good child. I never played any tricks on anyone. I never complained about my bedtime. I never talked back. So why? Why did this happen? I was trying to be a good child. I never played tricks on anyone. I'm sorry, everyone. I'm sorry, Mama. And that's what happened. Her voice peters out softly. The eyes locked on her now look desperately at each other. Nervously, the doctor speaks up. She's quite the creative little girl, isn't she? Ah, Monsieur, you've got goosebumps. The doctor scrambles for his words. It's just a little chilly air, all right? It's pretty late. Hey, what are you laughing at? The old man simply grins and muses softly. Oh yeah, the air is pretty chilly tonight. I've already decided long ago that I wouldn't forget anything. A man in my position doesn't get to be picky, you see? So chills like these don't bother me a bit. Truthful words, Monsieur. But very few men in this day and age understand the nature of chills.
The two older men laugh together as the doctor looks on in horror. You're all crazy. All of you. I need to get out of here and I need to get out of here right this instant. Where's my train at? And, by pure coincidence, he is cut off by a mighty train horn. All of the faithful souls sit in utter silence. Despite the differences, there is an instant understanding between them. Time stops for no one, and the train won't wait forever. There's your way out, big man. Don't want to miss it? The lady takes a languid sip and eyes the panicked doctor. Slowly, the bespectacled man leaves his seat and walks in the direction of the horn. And after a little while, the lady follows after him. Even now, her expression hadn't changed. The old man finishes his drink and smiles warmly. He extends a wrinkled hand to the little girl. Don't want to be late, little lady? Miraculously, the girl accepts. The two walk hand in hand until their figures were overtaken by the dark. Ah, how heartwarming. What a perfect way to end the story. Oh, but what am I saying? The night isn't nearly over yet. Oh, please, mon ami. Can't you indulge in this temporary bliss? I know what we must do, but there is no use in us complaining. As payment for straying from the path, we must assist Madame Fortune's grand plan. But oh, how magnifique it would be if things had turned out differently. Maybe I'd become an actor on the silver screen. How my features would shine. The gruff wanderer speaks for the first time that night. I don't know where I'd be. My mind goes blank when I think of anything else. His voice comes out as fragile as a child's. Maybe this was all I was meant to do. Still much to do. But we must go on regardless. It is said, in such a countryside, you may come across a man with a trail of cigarette smoke behind him. He speaks little and keeps to himself, unless the powers that be force his hand. These people who wander without home or fortune carry a painful duty upon their shoulders. Any lost soul they find in their journey must be cut down without mercy. A life of endless meetings and partings. That is the curse of a reaper. Right on time. The last of them have been delivered. Well, almost. You already know, don't you? I too was on that train. Funny, isn't it? Even if we're separate from the rest of humanity,
We can bleed like any other average man. I do it myself, but it seems that my own power is ineffective against myself. So the duty of deliverance falls on a dear friend. Think of it this way. If you leave me in this phantasmal form, I'll eventually unbecome myself. Each part of me will chip away in the wind until nothing remains. So don't be sad. Being a reaper really is a wonderful thing. We can meet again, and we can trade stories and eat well, just as we have tonight. Alone, on the edge of the town, in the countryside, a reaper stands with white knuckles around the handle of a well-kept sickle. The spirits of the town push in and out of the train, going somewhere far beyond. He knows one day he will be cut down just as his friend was. He'll exit this world as alone as he lived it. You. You're not dead. We will inevitably meet tragedy in our lives. Some will meet more than others, but it is said that the more dire the path, the more brilliant the miracles. A sum of wealth landing into your pockets, a brush with danger that leaves you untouched, or perhaps it's something as simple as two lonely souls crossing paths. Programming Sandalphon. Thank you, and safe travels. Reapers Goodbye by Kalechips. Hello friends, thanks for watching that video, and if you like my voice acting, you can support me by subscribing. Alright, that's it. Bye senpai.